Okay, here goes nothing. I wanted to do a quick review of the setup for this Motu 8PreEs that I have. I'm doing it a lot for me because I want to remember what the heck I'm doing sometimes with all this routing and everything. But it's a studio setup with just a basic setup with 4 mics in the studio and the ability to take callers on the computer and to take smartphone or mobile calls as well, whether it be through an app or even just a phone call. So it does all the mix minus with the software and whatnot. So there's thousands of mix minus tutorials out there on YouTube, but I did one as well with the mixer. And with this Motu 8PreEs, it has such a great control program that has mixing capabilities and whatnot that you can do so much of it with the software and without all the noisy cables and everything. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the Motu 8PreEs setup, and it really involves just using the software. For the sake of this, I just have 2 mics going, okay, but we'll show how we do it all and how we do the routing. So let's just get started. This is the control program for many of the Motu AVB interfaces. You know, these interfaces that you can use Ethernet. Motu's control program is really great for the 8PreEs and for many of the other AVB devices, these devices that you can connect and stream between interfaces using Ethernet. Anymore, if I'm going to get anything serious as far as an audio interface, all I get is Motu. And I love the control program and the software that Motu produces. We'll go through the configuration with 4 studio mics with the ability to take callers or do Zoom conferencing or whatever to get many callers in on audio through the computer. And we've got the smartphone set up so that we can take calls, actual calls from, you know, even from a landline, or we can talk to others with conferencing through the smartphone or play music through the smartphone. And mobile setup, we have the computer set up and we have the 4 mics as just an example. And we do all mix minus and all that type of stuff with the software. So when we go to the first screen for the Motu control program, we have the device itself. So this is typical of audio interfaces where we have a lot of what you can control on the audio interface itself, you can control through the software, right? So this is kind of a typical thing. And so we got it at 48K as far as sample rate, and, you know, just an example, really, nothing heavy going on. I do have an ADAT attached here. I have an ADAT interface, right? An optical interface. I do have one attached here just for more inputs and outputs, but I'm not digging into that too far. I will mention it along the way because it's how I connect the smartphone. But we'll just, we're not going to get into any depth on that. So anyway, this is just tells you what the device is set up as, okay? I'm not going through a tutorial to show you every step, just a basic setup where you use software to do the mix minus and have a nice studio setup. I've tried it on the Focusrite stuff, and not to put them down or anything, but sometimes their control program, it's not as efficient, to be honest. As far as a mix minus, you have to do some hokey cabling and stuff. With this, it figures it all out within the software. It's really tremendous. Another thing about this Motu 8PreEs is that it has the ability to go standalone. Like if you don't have a computer, you know, you can just use it. Now, obviously, you can't take calls on a computer or a phone if you don't have them hooked up, right? But if you want to go standalone with your configurations, all of this is, you know, flash copied to the interface. That's what I like about the Motu devices, that they will run in standalone. And I know the Claret and a lot of those in the same price range will do it as well. And I don't know about the super high-end stuff. I assume they do. I don't know. In this particular setup, I selected interface and mixer. If you look here, you have audio interface. You can just go with just an interface, like people that use a DAW to do everything, to do their recording. Standalone mixer, that's what I talked about. And I'm doing an interface and mixer. There's other types of configurations we can do here. So let me cancel out of this, go back to our custom configuration. Now to go to the routing, the main business here is the routing and the mixing. This is the routing page, which most of the audio interfaces have. What's interesting about the Motu control program is that it provides a mixer within it that I want to use. So on the routing, I think what we want to do first is let's think about like what's coming in, the mics and the computer and the smartphone, and we're going to move them to the mix, right? So here's the inputs at the top, right? This is typical really of most interfaces. Most multi-channel interfaces have this, you know, where there's inputs up here, and then over here is how they get routed, right? So before we get into the analog aspect, I'm old school in the sense that no matter what I do with all this stuff and this routing and everything, I want to use an actual, you know, recorder that the main job of the recorder, like one of these Zoom devices or whatever, is to record. I mean, it has some, obviously a computer in it, but its only job is to record. So I will send everything to the analog in the end and have it recorded on a Zoom device. Let's start with bringing in the mics, okay, and the inputs and sending them to the mix. So here's your inputs and here's mics, right? 1, 2, and you can see I have 2 mics active. You can see 2 of them lit up. There's one behind me and the one here that I'm talking into now, right? So here's 1 and 2, right? So if you come down here, they go mic 1 into the mix. This is the mix in right here. If you look in the down here, this is the mix in, right? And here's mic 1, right? I've got this disabled so I don't change my routing. I've got a read only because I don't want to change my routing, which I can do easily. So anyway, here's mic 1 to mix. Mic 1 is going into the mix, and then here's mic 2 back here. Mic 2, here I'm talking into mic 2 now. Okay, and so they go into the mix, okay? So 1, 2, 3, and 4, if I had 2 more mics hooked up, then they would go there, to 3 and 4. Okay, and then we have the phone, and I like to get the stereo, you know. It gets summed through the mixing and everything, which is good, so you get both channels. I like to get the stereo mix of both the smartphone or this says phone, but it could be any mobile device, and the computer. Into the mix, I have the 4 mics, and then I bring in the smartphone or mobile. This could say mobile. I bring them in here. Now, this is where I use an ADAT device. Just assume you have one of these iRigs or whatever you're using, you know, adapter type of thing to bring your phone audio into the mix, right? Which you'd be plugging it into, like you could plug it into the actual analog if you like, right? But in my case, I prefer to bring it in through an ADAT device, and optically I'm bringing it in digitally, okay? But this is the phone. So just assume that these could come in through an analog input, of course, from your phone. I take the smartphone output and I put it to the ADAT device. I have a separate device, and that's attached optically to this Motu 8PreEs, and then it comes in here through the digital connection. Okay, but I'm not trying to get into that. It doesn't matter. I just want to show you. And again, I'm doing a lot of this for myself because I want to remember how I did it if I have to look at it a month from now. Okay, so here's mix. Here's the phone or the mobile coming into the mix. We got mics 1, 2, 3, 4, and the phone coming into the mix left and right. And then here's the computer coming in, right? So here's an input from computer. Now I can set this up to have a bunch of inputs, right? Over here on this left side, there's all kinds of things you can add. I just put what I needed just to do this little configuration, but we can add all kinds of to computer, to, I only have 2, and from 2. Okay, but we could have many. So from computer, right? So anything I play on the computer will come in here into the mix. Here we can look at this coming in, right? Now we'll worry about what we do with it in the mix. That'll be next. But here's mic 1, right? It lights up here. Its lights are going off everywhere. Well, that's because of how it's mixed to aux, using aux and whatnot, okay? And then here's mic 2. Okay, I don't have mic 3 and 4 hooked up. And then right here is the phone. So let me play the phone. If we had a caller, right, this would be the caller calling in. This would be the audio, okay? And I'm just going to play, one of my videos on my smartphone. These adapters are ubiquitous, so finding them won't be hard. That's where the phone or mobile device comes into the mix, right there. I do it through this ADAT interface, but you could do it bringing it into your interface in many different ways, just through the analog if you like, however you want to do it. Okay, so that's the phone. And now that here's the computer. I'll just play, I'll play one of my videos, another video. Alright, so
I'm going up, going
here it
over to
is.
Montana.
There's your right and
You
left.
got yourself the truck, 'cause Atlas, you knew you were. Aha, well, maybe you'll go and blow
All
a
right,
gasket.
so here I am on the mic.
Start at the northwest corner.
The other mic's picking it
Go
up
down
too.
through
Here's the computer.
California, D-line, you might drive.
Okay, so that was the computer. So you can see everything's coming in. We're getting all the audio into the mix in. Now let's go to the mixing tab. Okay, now this is the mixing. Now what's cool about this is I'm going to get rid of all this, but you can do the EQ and all the DSP stuff here. I use a gate for the mics, and there's compression and all that stuff. So high pass filter. I'm not going to turn it off, but here's the two mics actually in the mix. It's really cool. You do everything with software, that comes with the device, with the interface. That's what I like. So anyway, but I'm going to turn everything, not turn it off, but get rid of the view of it so that we can really look at where the real business is going on with the mix itself. Okay, I'm just going to turn the view off here. Okay, so here's my mic 1, right? Here's mic 1, and then here's mic 2 behind me, mic 2. Okay, so you can see them getting lit up. And then I have 3 and 4, right, muted. They're all mono. And then I bring in the phone because I do want the stereo. I want both channels to come in, obviously, from the smartphone or the mobile device, indicated by these 2 dots. And then the computer stereo right here is coming in. Okay, and that's based on the routing from the previous page, right, on the routing. How we get to the mix minus is by using aux outputs and also groups. Okay, so for the mics, the first thing we do is just get every mic assigned. Mic 1, aux 1. Mic 2, aux 2. Mic 3, aux 3. Mic 4, aux 4. And then the smartphone or mobile device, okay, they get summed together and sent to aux 5. And then the computer audio, right, which would be the caller that comes in on, let's say, the Zoom conferencing, the left-right channels get summed together and go to aux 6. So everybody's got an aux, right, for the 6 elements, let's say, of the studio. Now, here's aux 7. This is an interesting one, okay? What we want to do here is, in dealing with the phone caller, we want to be able to send anybody on a conference call on the computer, let's say a Zoom conference, right? There's multiple people in a Zoom conference with people here in the studio. So obviously we want anyone calling in on a smartphone or using an app on the mobile device, we want them to hear the 4 mics and the computer, right, from the Zoom call, let's say, but obviously not themselves. So this is the minus, okay? This is the phone. This is the phone mix, okay? And it all goes, the phone audio goes out to aux 5, but it does not go to aux 7 because we're going to use aux 7 to send the 4 mics and the computer conferencing or whatever we're doing on the computer, the caller here, all of that goes to the smartphone, okay? And it's all done through aux 7. We don't want to send the smartphone audio back to the caller, so we don't use aux 7 for the smartphone. Okay, so that's how that's handled. Now, the other piece to this is, obviously, we want to mix minus with those calling in on the computer, and how we do that is we do it through the groups, okay? So what we've got here, again, mic 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay, everything goes to main. All the audio is sent to main. All the channels, except for the computer sound, is sent to group 1 and 2. Mic 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we have the channel that has the summed smartphone left and right channels, okay, all going to group 1 and 2. But then for the computer, we do not have it going to group 1 and 2. So there's your minus for the computer right here. Computer, right, it only goes to main. Its output does not go to 1 and 2. So now, having known that, okay, and again, I'm not going to go into everything. You can go into the aux mixing here and do all kinds of mixing with your aux outputs and whatnot. But rather than do that, and see, I've got two mics hooked up, so the one behind me it hears me as well. That's why it's jumping around. Let's go back to the routing now. Here's the mix aux, right, out that I just showed you. Coming out, here's mic 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they go to the analog 1, 2, and 3, and 4 for me to record with my field recorder. Okay? So, and that's the beautiful thing about this. Like I said, if we don't have a computer and we really wanted to use this standalone, we could. If you don't have a smartphone hooked up or a computer hooked up, obviously you can't take calls from them, but that you'd still have your studio. Here's mics 1, 2, 3, and 4 routed to aux 1, 2, 3, and 4. We saw that in the mix. We did that through the mix. Then we ran the smartphone or mobile device output to aux 5, right? And it gets summed together here, the left and right. And the computer output, like if we had a computer caller, they got sent to aux 6, okay, summed again into mono, but their left and right is included in that mono signal. It's just summed together. So now we have all our analog that we can record on the recorder, the field recorder. Now let's deal with aux 7. Aux 7 was for the smartphone. Let's go down here. So everything went to aux 7 but the smartphone. So the computer output and the mics. So you see me talking, and as these mics light up, right? Mic 1 and 2. This is my main mic right here. Right, you see that it goes to aux 7, okay? And then I'll go over here and just talk into mic 2. Now I'm on mic 2, and you see that goes to aux 7. We're going to use aux 7 to send that to the caller on the smartphone. So if we have somebody on a Zoom call on the computer, then that needs to go to aux 7. If you remember from the mix, it did. So now I'm going to play something on the computer, and we'll see that aux 7 lights up with the computer, okay?
Over to Montana, you got yourself a truck. 'Cause Atlas, you knew you were a hot well. Maybe you'll go and blow a gasket. You start at the northwest corner, going down through California. D-line, you might drive 3 days.
So you see that went to aux 7. The mics and the computer sound, this goes through an ADAT device actually, but it could go directly through an adapter or whatever to your smartphone, okay? Because then you get all the mics in the studio and you get the computer sound, everything to the smartphone right here, okay? Through aux 7. We rerouted everything to aux 7 except for the smartphone, and I'll prove that. I'm going to play the smartphone now, and aux 7 should not light up. The adapter on the speaker output side and run that to the input of channel 4. Okay, so you heard that. That was my smartphone playing a video, a YouTube video, and you saw aux 7 did not light up. So there's the minus to the phone. Okay, now what we do with the computer is we use group 1 and 2. So here's a couple things we want to look at. When we look at the aux 7 and group 1 and 2, this is where all the mix minus stuff is done. The source is aux 7 from the 4 mics and the computer sound, and this actually goes to the ADAT device, but really in your case, it could go to the output of the interface or whatever that you send to your phone, right? Which would go to the phone mic, if you will, okay? So that the caller can hear. The source of aux 7 is going back to the smartphone, so obviously we don't want to send the smartphone audio back to the smartphone. This is the mix minus for the smartphone. We don't want to send the caller their own sound back. All channels except for the computer sound went to group 1 and 2, if you remember. So here's how we minus to the computer, okay? When we have a computer caller, this is the minus back to the computer caller, okay? You see here group 1 and 2 are lit up. We showed you in the mix where we sent everything to group 1 and 2 except for the computer sound. Mic 1, when I talk, we see group 1 and 2. Here's mic 2. 1 and 2 light up, and now I'll play the smartphone and we'll see it'll go to the computer port on the mixer. That matches the aux send number or the FX. That was me talking on a YouTube video on my smartphone. Okay, that went to 1 and 2, and all of that goes back to the computer, okay? So we get all the mics and the smartphone going to the computer. Now I'm going to play the computer, and we'll see that group 1 and 2 should not light up because that's the minus. Group 1 and 2 lit up, then it means that we're sending back to the computer callers their own voice, which we don't want. So group 1 and 2 should not light up when we play something on the computer. So let's try that.
Aha, well, maybe you'll go and blow a gasket. You start at the northwest corner, you're going down through California. D-line, you might drive 3 days, 3 nights.
Okay, so there you have it. That's your minus. Okay, so that's the mix minus basically, and that's the configuration. In the end, I like to do it using a recorder live, especially when I've taken people's time out and I don't want to have to redo it. COVID and everything, we had some people at their home on Zoom calls and whatnot. And if we're doing all that, I want to make sure that I'm getting everything. So I just use a field recorder. So going to the analog output of the Motu 8PreEs is mic 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sum together the phone output goes to channel 5 on the, I have a Zoom F6 I'm using here, and then sum together the computer left and right goes to analog 6. If one uses the capability that we have with this control program, there shouldn't be a lot of post-processing work, really. I mean, it's got all kinds of EQ, compressor graph. It's pretty cool. It just, everyone has a different way of doing it, you know. Here's the graph. You know, I didn't do anything. I'll make this pretty flat this time. Just want to do this as an example. So it has graph and, you know, and all the, I just left it pretty much defaulted. And I did put a little bit of a gate on here, as you can see. It's really cool. So you don't have to do as much post-processing, but everybody does their own thing, you know, with the processing. So that's it. Thank you. Hope it was helpful. I know it's something I'll be able to use because I forget what I've done. I forget how stuff works. I have to relearn it every time because I don't touch it for a certain amount of time. And then I come back to it maybe weeks or months later. All right, over and out. Take care.